Hello and welcome back to my Idaho friends. I am your host, as always, Jaime Lima, and we are happy that you are joining us. Accent kicking in early tonight. So, as always, I shout out and big thanks to Argos Productions, the whole team, Justin, Erica, sweet baby Jameson in the back, making sure that we're running smooth and that we're staying on the air. If you need any help with any sort of production, whether it's film, content for your social media, need some content for your marketing and whatnot, make sure that when you're watching this on the YouTubes, well, first of all, you first subscribe to the channel, but then you look down at the link, check out Argos Productions, check out their portfolio and all the ways that they can help you on your business and your brand. Now, without further ado, man, am I excited today. Am I excited today? Why? Because, well, this is our third show that we're pre-recording right now. So this is new, by the way. But this is our last one of the day, and I'm so super pumped up about it. So my buddy, Ryan Vasso from Reply Pro. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course, man. Good to be here.
Right on, right on. So we're going to dig in deep and hard. You know, we're going to bypass the pleasantries. What is it that Ryan Vasso does here in this valley of ours?
Yeah, so two things. I own my own software company, Reply Pro. So that sucks up a lot of time. And then my other passion work is with the Boise State Venture College, where we help students launch businesses outside the classroom.
And that is true because that's how I met him.
Yep, exactly.
No, I really am grateful with the partnership that the Boise Venture College has with Mission 43.
There you go.
Shout out to Mission 43. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't been able to attend because you know they paid for it, and that's how we met, and that's how I was able to test a couple of concepts that turned out that I dodged a bullet.
Hey, we saved you money.
You saved me a great deal of money, and we're going to touch on that too. But we're going to come back to that in just a little bit, more about you and what you're doing now with Boise Venture College, and also as the CEO and founder of Reply Pro. But where were we before that? Where were we 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I was probably finishing up college. I was selling pet insurance, of all things. There's like a human health insurance, but for pets. It's good. It's a good company, but it wasn't my life ambition to be a salesman for pet insurance.
Wasn't your passion? Is that what you're saying?
It was interesting because it was a big enough company where it felt corporate-y. Okay. Right? We're not talking like Hewlett-Packard size, but it was enough where marketing was kind of segregated, and you had like the CEO kind of in different offices, and it was you could still approach them, but there was clear divisions. Yeah. And I was just like, nope, don't like this. It's not my fill. And then I found out a lot about myself because insurance just has a lot of rules and regulations, and I've always prided myself on like, okay, how do we expand the thought? How do we expand the box? And insurance, you just can't do it. And so,
nope.
just felt super refined. So between the corporate and the rules of insurance, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Right on. So a lack of flexibility made you take a turn, which then brings us over to right now. So,
yeah.
Right? So you were finishing college, you were working the pet insurance, paying the bills, doing your thing, learning, and then you decided like, I'm just gonna start my own business because of reasons.
Yeah, kind of. So I had a friend that was in this super niche business. It's HOA management. It's like HOA homes and stuff. He manages those, and he came with the difficulty of, okay, there's a HOA of 500 homes. Only 3 are decision makers. It's the board members. But how do I contact those people? How do I get my value in front of them? And so I was working with him and just finding that it wasn't just his business. There was lots of businesses that had that issue of like getting their value in front of people. So that's what launched me down, because I thought I was like an expert in that, and it turns out I had no clue at all, and I was completely lost. But yeah, I mean, I launched super green. I think I took one business course at Boise State, and then I actually went through the venture college, and they caught me up really quickly to speed, but I still lost thousands of dollars and lots of years, chasing rabbit holes that just didn't turn out to be a good startup.
Yay, business ownership.
Yay. And now my goal is to help people like you and others not spend the thousands of dollars, spend a couple weeks and $50 and figure out if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, no, and thanks to you, I just only ended up spending $50.
That's a win.
By the way, if all of a sudden you hear sweet baby James losing his mind in the background, those are my children in another room watching some Lego Ninja show.
Sounds good.
So just letting you know, you have my full attention. They'll be fine. So that was that. So that was rather quick. You went ahead and you fired on all cylinders. Like, we're gonna launch this. I think I got this. I fancy myself a subject matter expert. Then we found out that we had to like eat like perhaps like a couple of slices of humble pie.
Totally.
And then we bring ourselves up to speed with some extra training, some education. Some of it links up with the Boise Venture College. Is that the first time you linked up with those guys?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So you were a student.
Yeah, I'd recently graduated, so I was probably like a year out, and
Okay.
I think it was the second. They kind of do it in cohorts, batches of entrepreneurs. So I was part of their second cohort, and so at that point, like I'd already gone all in. I'd sold my rental property. I was on the cusp of quitting my job, or I had already quit my job, and then they were like, "You should be in this program to help you out."
Right on. How did that go? Because now, like you mentioned, it takes up all of your time,
Yeah.
being in your business. How
Yeah.
did you manage to find the time to then also help other people, through the venture college, to essentially, bypass all the additional or perhaps the extra growing pains and the shock and awe of like starting a business
Sure.
or even coming up with a concept?
Like you're saying, how do I find the time for that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's energizing, at least personally for me, it's energizing to work with other ideas. Because I remember like as an entrepreneur at the beginning stages, like especially when you haven't nailed the value proposition, you're almost like on the hunt and you're always looking for like, what about this? How do you monetize this? And your brain doesn't shut off. And so finally I've hit a stage where, okay, I know actually what my company is and I have a sight on where I needed to go and, software wise, I know where we need to go, partnerships, etc. So the venture college is actually a great outlet for me because like I get to hear other ideas, but I don't have to invest all my time. So it's actually pretty energizing.
Right.
And then I think it's really cool when entrepreneurs like actually buy into the system we believe in, which is like go talk to customers, figure it out, come back to me and let's talk about what you learned. And I think that just becomes like, it's an outlet for me to talk business naturally. Right? And gives us great talking points because ideally they're doing something and there's new information to bring to the table every time we talk.
Gotcha. So you also get to continue your education by being part of that.
Yeah, I mean it's every business is different, and it's more of like I didn't know they would say this, or I thought there's something to there, and so it's exciting to see businesses take off. It's exciting when like revenue comes in. Like there's always energy around entrepreneurship that's progressing. There's usually like frustration and sadness when it stops. So I try to circle myself around, people that are always trying to progress. And if they don't, then like our mentorship stops because you've hit a point and I've maximized what I can do. So, find another mentor, but I continue on with the ones that are hitting their checkpoints, getting new stuff and evolving the business.
What is Reply Pro now? Not based, but in comparison from when you first got started.
Oh, it's horribly, like completely different from when we started. So what we are today.
Take me on this journey actually, because I don't want like a snapshot of that. So like, you were looking, the previous value proposition was just like putting this other value from this company and many other companies in front of as many people as possible, which were their potential, like not potential, but their current client base and then some, correct?
Yeah. So going back to my friend that did the HOA management. So my initial theory was let's build kind of a database of HOA management companies, use SEO, like drive traffic, and he would be one of like many companies. Well, eventually that pivoted to like, well, why are we just doing HOAs? It's so niche. Why don't we branch that out to other services? And then we kind of, like if you've heard of a company called Thumbtack or Home Advisor, the idea of like contacting multiple professionals at once. Well, like 7 or 8 years ago, they were big, but they weren't gigantically big. We thought there was an angle for that. And so we started building out, and this is where my mistakes happened because I wanted to go for it all. And so I had to have all the categories in Boise. We spent months calling businesses and we launched this site that takes 9 months, thousands of dollars to do, and within 2 weeks, I knew it wasn't going to work. So what happened was, like, you could select multiple professionals and say, I want a quote, but all these blasted companies in Boise would not call the customer back. And that's the whole value proposition of my site, is that you could get like 6 or 7 quotes at once.
Right.
And so I call these guys, and I'm like, dude, why are you not like, and they were big ticket items. Like one was, I think like a new AC unit. I mean, that's thousands and thousands of dollars. Why would you not call that lead back? Oh, we're super busy right now. Like we don't have any time. And it was like the first time where I realized, I seriously thought I was doing it right. I mean, I was on the consumer side, you know, I was knocking on doors. I literally went to neighborhoods in Kuna, Idaho, knocked on doors and was like, how do you shop for home services? Tell me about the process. So I was doing my customer interviews, but I didn't do my customer interviews on the business side because I just assumed that they would want leads.
Right.
And that assumption was completely wrong. And so and from that point, it set me back nine months. And then, so we pivot the business a little bit. It was awkward because at that point, we were literally on the cusp. We had raised like $25,000 investment, then turned into $75,000. And it was weird because we literally got the $75,000 and then 2 weeks later came back to our investors and was like, we're completely pivoting the business. That's an awkward conversation, right? Like,
a little bit.
Thanks for the check. By the way, that didn't work, but I think that taught me like the importance of investors, especially at the early stage. I mean, they're ridiculous if they're investing in the business idea. They're investing in you. Mm-hmm. So my investors were like, great, you learned something, like do something better. And so we made pivots from like, okay, we'll just have this site where all reviews are there, like Yelp, Google, where customers can, they don't have to go to multiple review sites. We found out we couldn't make any money that way. So then it was like, okay, what are we gonna do now? But by doing that, we found out that businesses actually cared about their reputation. And so we turned from like a B2C play to more a B2B play. And so what I found is like we made gigantic pivots, right? Like, and it was embarrassing as an entrepreneur. You'd have, especially when you do the initial launch, you'd have people who are like, oh, how's the startup? Expecting like Facebook type growth.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, we're going to make a change, and then like 3 months later, how's the startup? Oh, we made another significant change. And you could just see in their face, like they weren't saying it, but they were saying it like, oh, you're a failure, right? Like, it totally, it sucked. And like to the point where like they felt awkward asking about it. Yeah. And I still to this day will have people that are like, so like whatever happened to that business? Like they're almost like afraid to bring it up. And I'm like, oh, you didn't know? Like we're in 30 different countries now and we doubled revenue last year and we're doing good. But yeah, it's super tough. It's embarrassing at times. I think one of the biggest learnings I had is it's really lonely. Mm-hmm. As a single founder, I know as co-founders that could be different, but as a single founder, I quickly found out there's a difference between employees and co-founders. Employees like, it's 5 o'clock, it's time to go home. Co-founders like 11:30 at night, hey, I got an idea kind of thing, right? And I assumed all my employees, because they were early and they were excited about the thing, that they'd have that same rush. And either two things happened. I burned them out because finds out humans don't like working till midnight every night, right? Or I was disappointed because they wanted to check out at 5 or 6 o'clock and not be able to return back to the office. Right. And so it just felt like a lot of burden was on me. You can only talk business so much with your friends when there's no growth and you're in experimentation mode. And so, yeah, it was some rough years I'd say like a rough 4 or 5 years before I figured it out.
Now, this time you took a rabbit hole. I didn't. We were talking about this earlier there, Idaho, settle down. But anyways, business care about the reputation, you were saying. Yeah. And that's when you kind of sort of went like, like this is the major last pivot.
Yeah, so it was like the first pivot towards business. So we found out, so we had all these reviews and then like we were gonna do like accolades or like if they had local awards. So think of like a single page that has pretty much every accreditation a business has in one spot. Mm-hmm. So we do this and that's when we got more businesses like, hey, make sure this is on there or make sure this is on there or you guys have the wrong reviews or what, like they actually cared, right? Right. So it was like, oh, this is maybe a segment that cares. And it was like, why do they care? Well, because it can drive revenue. So then we realized it was a B2B play. We made the mistake of trying to partner with an agency at first because we were good at gathering data, just scraping data, right? Mm-hmm. And aggregating in one spot. We thought there was enough value. So we sell this plan to some like well-established marketing agencies. They were like, sure, we'll give this young Boise State startup team a chance. And they canceled like within the first month. Oh. But it was another learning because what happened was like we made this big deal of aggregating data and making all these like really pretty charts, but the charts don't move day to day, especially if it's just like a single business. There just wasn't a lot, and so they're like, great. They looked at it, but I'm not paying $100 a month for this. Like, thanks
Right.
for the trial. So it was like back to the drawing board. And I just remember like, I knew instinctively that businesses, for us to like meet value, businesses didn't have to just see reviews. They needed to be able to respond to reviews. So this is probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. It was like nowadays, it's like, no duh, you need to respond to your Google reviews. This was still pretty new to businesses of responding back to customers. And so that's when we pivoted to, okay, we'll have a place where all businesses can respond to reviews. And then since then, like that got us to our core value proposition of aggregating data and then allowing them to respond back. And since then, it's not so much gigantic pivots as it is adding more data that they can respond to. So now we add direct messages. Now we add social media comments or mentions. Now we're adding SMS and email. So now it's just this central hub where businesses get all of their customer information and then respond back. Nice. I think like our biggest aha was when we finally started moving upstream to larger locations. So once again, not a pivot, but more of a discovery, more of like more clarity on our value proposition fit. Because the more locations they have, the more they were overwhelmed. And so I would pitch to Boise locations like, hey, this is amazing. And they were like, yeah, it's okay, because they only had 1 or 2 locations. Right. Then we'd do that same pitch to someone that had 50 locations. They're like, sign me up. And so that's where it's like, okay, I'm on to something.
Yeah. Whew, that feels nice, I bet.
It feels good to finally get some wins, right? And then you're going into like a different stage, which is growth mode. And growth mode has its own different pains. We're like, putting processes in place or infrastructure to make sure you can support the growth. Like it's a new phase. It's fun. It's fun to be in I hate being in the discovery phase for 5 years. So it's good to be out of that.
Because we're diving into business, but your business is your business a legacy business? Is your business something more along the lines of like, one of these days this is gonna go back like to my kids or like?
Gotcha. No, we're gonna. I mean, we took investment, right? So the moment I took investment from true investors, the intention is eventually to have a partner buy us out. So I don't know who that is yet. I mean, there's some potential prospects there, but. Yeah, it's to build it to where the revenue makes sense and we find a partnership that would just pick us up and plug us into their existing corporation.
Grow, scale, sell.
Yep.
Right on. And how long now has this been happening? The length actually since you got started up until right now?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking like day one of the original Reply Pro, which was called Based In, I think we're going on 8 years, 9 years, somewhere around there. Yeah. I
mean, it seems like a long time, but I just bet it just went by so quick.
No, it went by terribly slow.
Oh, really?
At the start, when you're in failure mode, like discovery is super hard,
true.
right? And like, add on, I still had to like provide for my family. My wife, her goal was to work at home. So like, I'm trying to make enough money to support our family. We got 4 kids, right? So that's tough. That's a tough stage. So I mean, yeah, like business-wise, it just feels like you're in mud until you get clarity, until you have proof that you've nailed your value proposition. Then it feels like you're running.
Man, well, that's pretty exciting, and I'm excited for you. Like that. I don't know. It seems like there's not going to be any more major pivots.
I don't think at this point we're going to do like major pivots. Yeah, there's additions, there's opportunities we see. Like, if anything, it's like what more data can we bring in, or what new customer segment could we better serve, but. Yeah, we're to the point now, and that took a while because it always ticked me off because we'd be on sales calls like even up to like a year ago, 6 months ago, we'd be on sales calls where I felt like we were beating the competition, but they'd always be like, well, what about this feature? Can you do this? Or what about this? Do you do this? And just every time I wanted to cringe because I just felt like I was pushing my dev team like, keep adding. And I finally, like no lie, within the last 6 months, people are finally like, wow, you do all that? And it's like, oh, thank you. Like, I've wanted to hear that for the last 4 or 5 years. And so it's just a different stage.
Until another app shows up.
Until something comes up and then it's back.
Gosh, that's so cool though. Looking at those 8 years and where you're at right now with your business and finally gaining the traction that you so wanted for yourself and your team and perhaps not like pushing your dev developers, so hard. If there was something like, I'm sure there was maybe perhaps maybe several things, maybe just one or two. What would you say is like the top thing that you would have done different?
Like starting from the very beginning?
Yeah.
Just test faster, build faster, right? So like those 9 months that I took to build a website, I nowadays with my knowledge, I could have tested that in a week. You didn't even need software for it. You could have found a friend and then simulated what the software would have done via emails, and you could test that within a week. And I could have found out that 6 out of 9 Boise employee or companies would not have responded back. And then I'd been like, bad idea, let's go to the next one, right? And I would have still had my rental property, and the equity would have been great.
Yeah,
but
and
now
there would have been passive income coming in.
Exactly. So that's one. I don't know. Like just, I think just knowing, if I could have known what it would have took, I still would have done it, but I'd have been more emotionally prepared. It's just a roller coaster. There's highs and lows, and I feel like at the beginning there was just so many, we're gonna make it, and then the next day you're like, I think we're gonna go bankrupt, and we're gonna make. I mean, I just remember having a bankruptcy conversation like probably 4 years ago with one of my mentors of like, so just in case it happens, like, let me know, you know. So so just kind of bracing myself for, it's not, it's exciting, but it is brutal, and it's not like. I always watch the Facebook movie, the Social Network.
Okay, Social Network.
Yeah, with Zuckerberg, and you think that's the life, right? Like you're gonna be in a place just coding and it's fun. And you're gonna take off. That's a brutal lie that I had to find out for myself.
All right, I'm gonna now talk about something because I mean you're already touching on it, but it's like one of my top, if not the top, favorite thing that I learned from you while I was going through the entrepreneurs course.
Yeah.
Through Venture College and in partnership with Mission 43.
Yeah.
Testing.
Yeah.
So for anybody that is watching right now that perhaps has a business or a startup or is looking to begin a business or they have a concept, when you say testing, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean like just take your idea to the core's value and stop talking about it and go try it. And so if it's software, figure out how you could fake it without having to build a single line of code. There's plenty of ways to do it. So one way we did this, like way back in our early days, this is when I was trying to press my dev team that businesses wanted to respond to reviews. Well, to connect Google and Facebook and Yelp, it would have taken 9 months, right? And so we literally went to business and said, hey, our software can now respond to reviews. But what would happen is when they hit reply, our team would be like ready to go, logging in on their behalf to post the review.
Right.
But as soon as we found out that they were going to do it, then it's like, okay, now we're going to build it, right? So it's like find out these like small little tests. We had a lady in my class just this last week where she's wanting to pair stay-at-home moms with like job opportunities, and there's like this big resume gap, right? So she's trying to pair businesses that don't care about that. Well, she tested on my business. I was like, let's just test it, right? In 1 week, she realized like that's not the business I want to be. Like I don't like this. I don't like being the matchmaker. She could have planned all day. She could have invested. She could have done an LLC. But it's like spend a week and just do what you think you want to do,
right.
And you'll get those learnings. Like that's the biggest thing is a test is not just people say things. I want to know what they do. And so get them to do something as quick as possible, as cheaply as possible. That's the whole lean startup method. And you just learn faster. You learn by doing.
Right on. So more on testing.
Yeah.
When you are testing concepts, ideas, and then say, it's like, okay, so this is going to be the thing that I'm going to do. Like clearly there's a high demand for an ice cream truck.
Yeah.
All right. And and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go all in on the ice cream truck, and I'm going to like make it like the Twisted Metal like character from the PlayStation 1 game, Sweet Tooth and whatever. Perhaps not like that. I'm glad you caught on that.
I can see you've thought about this already.
Actually, she was just on the spot. But anyway, it's just a geek for video games. But then how does that apply? Like, do you continue to test at that point in time, or it's like, oh, like I got the business, I got the idea, and off I go and I start selling some ice cream?
Yeah, I mean, you're just measuring, right? So I think one of the biggest things is people talk about like the leap of faith to do a startup. I think the best ones are not a leap of faith, but a step of faith. Like ideally, you've done enough customer interviews and discovery to think you're onto something, and then you've done enough testing so that like your actual launch day per se is a very little. It's a little leap, right? There's always a little risk. But you haven't invested that much, and even the starting business, like you still, you haven't put thousands of dollars and months and months into it. But yeah, afterwards, I mean, usually you're always pivoting, right? You're still, especially the early days, it's like this. And then when you finally nail your value proposition, then it's more additions or refinement, or maybe this group would like it better than that group. So I think you're just measuring what you think is going to be a success, right? Like, I think 20 people are going to sign up after launch. Great, you launched. Did you get 40? Awesome, you killed it. Did you get 10? Well, then you're going to need to change something. So what do we need to change? So it's always evolving and moving.
And is it that dynamic when you are leading these conversations, these periods of instruction at the Boise Venture College? Is it pretty much like that? It seems like, these kids, well, I shouldn't say kids, anybody that goes to college, whichever's college age, and taking the course, are they being like in a conceptual stage? It's like, well, I think this is what I want to do, and I want to learn how to go about it, or they're like actually like, oh, like I'm running this while learning about it at the same time?
Yeah, I mean that's what so most people don't go in thinking like, I'm gonna do an MVP and I'll learn how to test this. So that's our job, is to teach them those principles. And then
minimum viable
product. So my goal is to teach those, and then my mentorship is more helping them figure out what they can do as a test, because I find like a lot of entrepreneurs in principle get it. Like, okay, I get it. I should do an MVP that I could test within 2 weeks, but they're not sure how to do it, right? And so prime example was there was a lady in one of my classes where she's trying to think of, she wants to have like a complete design of a room in a box. So you wouldn't have to think about it. You just hit a button and it's like instantly designed with the stuff that she wants. Well, I was like, go ahead and like test it. Like put it on Instagram, like do a collection of things and let me know how it goes. Well, she was stalling out because it was super hard. Like to get the rug, match with this, match with this, match with this. So she was hitting that point of like almost gonna stop because it was becoming too difficult. And it was like, that means your test was too big. So let's refine it back. I don't need to do the whole room. I'm gonna do a mantle. I'm gonna decorate a mantle, or I'm gonna decorate the couch. I'm gonna do a throw pillow and some stuff. And so by minimizing that test, at least it got her into movement. Like movement, there's like the, I bet you didn't think World War Z was gonna be in this conversation, but World War Z, Brad Pitt, he's in the apartment and he says like movement is life. He's trying to convince the Hispanic group to leave the apartment, and they won't leave. That movement is life in startup. You got to be moving. You got to be evolving, just for energy's sake alone. Because if you're stalling out, those are the entrepreneurs, the ones that are in their apartment still dreaming, the ones that still have excuse of why they haven't launched yet. Like those are the ones I cancel mentorship ASAP. I divvy them out. I can't do it because they're just stuck. And they're not living the principles that lead to success.
Right. And you're able to identify that,
Yeah, because it's 4 interviews in a row of like, oh yeah, I haven't really done anything, or yeah, I met with one person.
Gotcha.
Dude, it's been 4 weeks. Like, let's hit the hit the boosters. Yeah. And then you find out the excuses. Well, I'm this is kind of a passive thing. Great, I'm not your passive guy. Like,
right, yeah.
We hit the boosters and we go, or you move on and find somebody else.
Perhaps there's a passive mentor somewhere else.
Exactly. And so that's my personal, venture college, I should speak, as the college will help everyone. Personally,
right.
I focus on the ones that are like ready to hit the boosters and go.
That was very PC of you. Right?
Yeah, I was like, I'm still representing. So
that's really cool. That's really cool. Let's talk a little bit more about the venture college and the course itself. So you are one of the, what do you say, leading structures?
Yeah, associate director technically. So pretty much I help with all content. We help run some competitions, but at the end of the day right now, like if there's any formal classes, I'm the one teaching those.
Okay, so there's nobody else?
Teaching, not really. I'm the main.
Wow.
I'm the main instructor. So we usually have like 2 or 3 kind of formal programs. I lead the instruction on those 3.
Man,
it's fun.
Right. It was usually, I guess pre-COVID, what was the size of the class?
We've always, we never want it too big, so usually it's around 20-ish entrepreneurs. Okay. So that's...
And I know, kind of got to fudge some numbers here, completely off the top of your head, but when you're talking about, these college students, taking the course, more than likely they want to launch something, or they're already in the process of, or perhaps they want to discover. Yeah. What are would you say the percentage of people are actually following through with what they think or they said they were gonna follow through with?
Yeah, so it depends on which course I'm teaching. So if it's the actual Boise State one, I'd say consistently every semester, if there's 20 entrepreneurs, 2 or 3 are going to actually continue on and have the bandwidth to do it. What I'm finding more and more is students, well, they optimistically want to launch a startup, finals crushes their dreams, dating crushes, like they're still going on in life.
Yeah.
And frankly, a lot of them don't have a lot of experience. They come in with assumptions of what they think, how they think the world works or how they think business works. And then it's like within week 2, I'm telling them, go talk to your customers. And then they go talk to them like, I was completely wrong. And then sometimes they shut down. Like there's a percentage like, I'm out. My guess was wrong. You like crushed my dreams.
Actually, I'm not laughing at it. I'm laughing because of the course that we took together. And I was just like, why are you picking on me?
Yeah, no, it is. It's
that
like
was me saying, it's like, ask somebody else.
No, totally. Well, I mean, there was that slide. We're gonna frame it. It was like me being the dream crusher.
Yeah, and just like.
And I don't mean to crush dreams, but it's like I also like the best mentors were the ones that always were like, prove it. Like, stop talking about it, just prove it. Let me, show me customers that actually care about this kind of thing. So I tend to be more like that. So, 2 to 3, but on classes like M43, where we work with the military veterans, I mean, usually they're in a place where they can actually do a startup.
Right.
And in that case, I'd say, 33 to 50% end up actually doing something, or at least trying something, to the point where they can actually test, and then they'll either keep going or pull it back.
Man, whew. Now, I guess I never thought about this. I never asked you. So that course that I took, the one through Mission 43, is that different, or is that the same one that you teach?
Very similar to what we do with college students.
Okay.
So that one's goes through. It's really focused on more, getting to launch, so customer discovery, MVPs, and then we quickly go through more of the business model canvas and marketing and all, partnerships and all that.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we're onto for venture college is what we're calling reverse pitching. So what we find is a lot of students have a hard time identifying a legit problem that people are willing to pay for, and that's where they're stalling out. So this last semester, we partnered with home builders throughout Idaho, and they came to us with legitimate problems. So they're legitimate businesses with actual problems, and there was a 1-week sprint to say solve their issues. And there are companies that are still moving on after that. And as an entrepreneur, it's like warp speed, because you bypass the whole customer interview. Like, is this a pain? Is this not a pain? They're saying like, I'm willing to pay for this. Just solve it. No one's solved this yet. How do you solve it? The same principles still apply. You can do MVPs. You can do testing. But it's almost cheating.
But the end user.
And you have a passionate end user that's willing to pay for it. So so we're doing that. I think so. We'll continue doing it with home building. We're going to be doing it for cybersecurity, and honestly, we're looking for other industries within Idaho that are like, let's team up and come with problems. And then we have students.
Crazy exciting.
It's super. I think it's a huge shift in venture college, because there are 20 students that probably will go out on a ledge and try to launch a startup, and then half of those will stop mid-semester. But we think there's 100 students that'd be willing to come every semester to say, I will help solve someone's problems using entrepreneurial skills. So we think that's just going to explode more and more over time.
That is really cool.
It's fun.
I asked before we started recording, but you gotta come back again and talk about that. That's so cool. But you're right. That is like, I was gonna come up with some stupid analogy. I'm the worst at analogies, but also like it's like one of my favorite things. I was gonna come up with something about like, no, I don't know that we have that kind of time. It was gonna be something like Indiana Jones and the Jade Monkey, but it's actually like a golden egg. And anyways, it doesn't matter. Either way, like he didn't have to like replace it with the stone. Like the stone was already there, and he just had to like just pick it up. Terrible analogy, but I love them. Okay. So we are starting to run low on time, and that is like the cool thing is like you're the last, the guy like the pedal to the metal. We were hitting a lot of the questions that I really wanted to for you to answer. There's a lot more stuff that I would like to ask you and have you share with our audience. So hopefully you'll take me up on another invitation. Hopefully this was not too painful. But before we leave, please go ahead. That's your camera right there. Let it find people that watch My Idaho Friends, again, how they can find your services, whether it's websites, social media, phone number, smoke signal. I'm not here to judge. You do whatever you want to do. And then also, if you want to talk a little bit about the Venture College, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, my software company, ReplyPro, it's just replypro.io. We help brick and mortar businesses quickly respond to their customers, whether it be reviews or direct messages. We're really finding our niche in multi-location where they're just getting overwhelmed with customer comments. And then on the local side, Boise State Venture College, so we look for two things. People that are looking to launch their startup and want to save money and time and not go through the pains of the typical startup process. So we can help you there. Even if you're community members, we do have services. So just Google Boise State Venture College and reach out to us. And then in terms of businesses, like I alluded to, we're looking for businesses that have legit problems that we can turn our entrepreneurs onto your problems and help solve those. And we think that's really the next growth step for Venture College.
If all of a sudden a business shows up asking about their problem and their problem happens to be a competitive game board league,
I'll let them know there's no market.
You let them know. The original testing says there's no market, but I'm ready to pivot. And there's some hot concepts in the works right now. It's going to be Twitch and streaming, man.
There you
I'm
go.
just testing
Okay.
it. Actually, Argos Studio is going to help me with that. So
Good.
with that said, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. As always, thank you to Argos Productions, Erica, Justin, sweet baby James out in the back, making sure that everything's flowing the way that it's supposed to. As always, if you're watching us on the YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, go ahead and hit the like button. And look below on the comments where we have all the links. We're going to have the links here for Ryan's business, for the Boise Venture College as well. And then, of course, all the links for Argos Productions. And then probably some other stuff that I'm really into, like the nonprofits that I support and things like that. Thank you very much for watching. And remember, Idaho, when you get a chance, get out there and be kind to somebody. Cheers.